Ladies and gentlemen, from the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace and Justice, Deacon Gerald Celente.
Hello, this is Deacon Celente of the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace and Justice. Peace means not having war. There are a lot of other ways of having peace as well. But right now, the Ukraine war is all the news. It's taken over for the COVID war. That's still going on, but not like it used to be. So on the Ukraine war front, the United States this past week issued another $40 billion to Ukraine for more weapons of death. And again, these are from people that call themselves professed Catholics, like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. They call themselves Roman Catholics, where they're roaming very far away from Jesus Christ, who they claim to believe in, because Jesus would not accept what they are doing in sending these weapons of death. Nancy Pelosi has recently said that these weapons are a gift, actually, from God. She quoted the Gospel of St. Matthew as reasoning to shore up the $40 billion of lethal weapons and other aid that are being sent to Ukraine. $40 billion while the streets of America are rotted, the bridges collapsing, rotted, homeless in every city and state and county in the country. While people are barely living paycheck to paycheck, $40 billion. She said, quote, "The brutality of Putin is not just what he's doing in Ukraine, but the impact that it is having on food for the world." Yes, that's true. The war is hurting the shipments of wheat, barley, sunflower oil, and other commodities. So when you're home thinking, what is this all about, meaning the $40 billion, just think about, quote, "When I was hungry, you fed me," in the Gospel of Matthew, end quote. So her speech is about the massive amounts of lethal weapons going to Ukraine, has nothing to do with "when I was hungry, you fed me," because the weapons are only feeding the killing fields with more blood. Quote, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwanted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machine of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together." Nancy Pelosi wasn't quoting President Dwight D Eisenhower. This was his farewell address in January 1961. Instead, she defames playing a Catholic, to use St. Matthew's words, where they're only feeding the people with death, again, to bloody the killing fields. President Eisenhower warned the Americans of this. It has happened in front of our eyes. The person that's playing the head of the Department of Defense, Lloyd Austin, was formerly on the board of directors of Raytheon, the second largest military contractor in America. The military-industrial complex is in charge of the United States, along with the bankers, the drug dealers, the fentanyl deaths, over 107,000 this year in America, brought to you by the big pharma, and now the drug dealers. It's a complete takeover. The liberty and the peace and the freedom that General Dwight D Eisenhower warned Americans they would lose, they've lost it, as well as they have in other countries. And yet, while America keeps bashing Russia for their war, which we are totally opposed to, in their invasion of Ukraine, totally forgotten are Americans' mass murders of nonstop wars, basically since World War II and before. And Britain is now saying that they will fight with Sweden and Finland if they come under attack by Russia if they join NATO. World War III has begun. Britain, the great colonizer, where the sun never set on the British Empire. Colonizer. What a whitewashed word for invaders and putting people under slavery so that the money junkies that are getting whatever they want from those countries can get higher on what they're stealing and killing for. The United Kingdom has promised to help Sweden and Finland should they come under attack, as it seeks to provide security assurances to both countries in order to smooth their path to NATO membership. This is from the Financial Times. It is worth emphasizing, if Sweden were attacked and looked to us for help and support, we would provide it, said the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We would provide it? He would send others to go fight and die. And Finland is announcing their membership. And to see the way things are controlled and run by whom, there's a major story in Friday's New York Times. New pro-Israel group aims to sway state and local races in New York. Isn't that something? A pro-Israel group. How about a pro-American group? The apartheid state of Israel, according to Human Rights Watch, in the past year, the left-wing efforts to boycott Israel over its treatment of Palestinians has won over the Harvard Crimson and the Irish novelist Sally Rooney. It's even affected ice cream. Ben & Jerry has refused to sell its confections in the occupied territories. It has also made inroads in New York, home to the world's second largest Jewish community, where the boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions movement has gotten support from the local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. But now a new group backed by a billionaire hedge fund managers. Huh. What a joke. Is seeking to counter that movement. The group, the New York Solidarity Network, will act something like American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. Yep. The organization will oppose candidates, align with initiatives like the Boycott, Disinvestment, Sanctions movement, which encourages the shunning of Israeli business to end, quote, Israel's apartheid regime. That's what they're calling it as a quote. And Daniel S. Loeb is the hedge fund manager. Yep. This is against the American spirit. America should not be involved in foreign entanglements. This is not our business. The business of America is business. It's only increasing war, and they also say here that they hired Moonshine Strategies, a lobbying firm with close ties to the administration of Mayor Eric Adams. And then Adams payoffs political debt with 10 hirees for high-paying New York City posts. So you can see what this is. It's a crime syndicate that people call governments. They're gone. It's not about we the people. It's about only the special interests, hedge fund managers, people that know how to play the street game. What do they give back? Peanuts to the people. And the other big issue, of course, as these sanctions and war keeps heating up, and if it heats up in the Middle East, and the Israelis allegedly have slaughtered a Palestinian-American journalist from Al Jazeera, and heating up against Iran, if military confrontation breaks out there, we will have an economic crisis, the likes of which we've never seen, as well as a geopolitical one. Food prices in America have gone up 17 months in a row, and they're sending billions of dollars to go kill people all over the world, and building the defense budget yet even bigger. And no one's talking about peace. There are a few of us out there, True News, myself, a number of others, Consortium News, but very few. We can't do this without you. We need your help to do it. I just talked about the evilness of war. And as you well know, the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice believes that God gave us our bodies to do what we want with them, and not to tell other people what we must eat, drink, or inject into us. And that's why we provide the religious vaccine exemption, which has been very helpful to very many. And we also point out the hypocrisy of the people that promote the vaccination, but yet say, relative to Roe versus Wade, allowing women to get abortions, that it's my body, my choice. And again, in Friday's New York Times, a headline story, Harris emerges as the voice of abortion rights in the White House. With 3 words last week, Vice President Camilla Harris inserted herself forcibly into the roiling debate over abortion rights. and may have finally seized on an issue that is popular among key Democratic voters. Oh, voters. Quote, how dare they, she demanded, regarding abortions and the right of women to get them. Her question, delivered more as a statement of outrage, came in a speech to Emily's List, an abortion rights group, just hours after the leaked draft of the Supreme Court opinion indicating that at least 5 of the court's conservative justices were prepared to overturn Roe v. Wade. Quote, how dare they tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her own body? Well, you are a hypocrite because you are demanding that women get injected with an Operation Warp Speed gene therapy inoculation. But yet, how dare they tell a woman what they can and cannot do with their own body? How about how dare they tell a man what he can do with his own body and refuse to get an injection by a Pfizer, who will now buy Biohaven for $11.6 billion, and their executives want to find $25 billion in additional revenue from deals by 2030 to offset sales due to the lost patents on aging products and all the money they made from COVID vaccines. Pure hypocrisy by Camilla Harris. This is disgusting, and no one's calling her out. We are. How dare they try to stop her from determining her own future? How dare they try to deny women their rights and their freedoms? That is sexist. How dare they deny men and women and children their rights and their freedoms? You are a hypocrite. You, Harris, resemble the face of Washington, D.C. Murderers, thieves, and hypocrites. She decried over the weekend, in an unsettled world where Americans are forced to defend the rights of women to make decisions about their own bodies. Again, it's men and women to make decisions, and you're saying a woman has her right only when it comes to Roe v. Wade, but they could be forced to get inoculated with anything that you wish to inject in their body. Quote, all Americans should realize that this is a direct assault on freedom of women. Again, all Americans should realize that forced vaccination, Ms. Harris, are a direct assault on the freedom of everyone. There are some extremist Republican leaders who clearly want to punish and criminalize women. Yeah? And there are some extremist Republicans and Democrats that have clearly punished and criminalized both women and men with the forced inoculations of the COVID jab, of which you got and still got the virus, and had the audacity to say how proud you are that you got the vaccination, how proud you are that you got the booster, telling everybody else they should get it after you got the virus. This is insanity. These are mentally ill people. Yep. I would like to urge folks to vote for pro-choice candidates. Pro-choice candidates are hypocrites, like Planned Parenthood, My Body, My Choice, that spent several $1 million promoting the COVID jab. Mr. Biden, a lifelong Catholic, was opposed to Roe in his early days of his career and has only lately come to embrace abortion rights. He's not a lifelong Catholic. He's a phony. He's a warmonger. He votes for wars after wars, killing people after people. I illustrate all this to show you the dire times we're in and to support the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. Because if we do not unite for peace and freedom and justice, we are going to live hell on earth. The comments that I just read you are demonic. And they're coming from people that are mentally ill. They are not about freedom, peace, and justice. They are about full control. As General Dwight D Eisenhower warned. Yep. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. May your God bless you. Amen and amen.